Yep. The idea of governance shouldn't be a dirty word to folks out there. All you're doing is describing the policies and processes which determine how your company is going to detect, prevent, and ultimately respond to anything that might go wrong. And I make a distinction between response and reaction because a lot of times reaction comes with a negative connotation to it. It's something that's done emotionally at the drop of a hat, where a response is something that's typically a little bit better engineered with the right partners and process surrounding you. So again, really appreciate what you guys do. I think a good thought wrapping this all together is businesses these days, by and large, they need to have tools to help them with continuity in a cyber risk type of environment. But they also need to have a plan to use those tools. What's the use of having a Ferrari if you can't drive stick? Which, not that there's many stick cars these days, but you know where I'm going with that. Most important, though, you need to have well-trained people first to execute the plan that's behind the tools. Without that, you're kind of nowhere.
You do, Steven. That's a good starting point, especially if Kurt's question to us, right? How do I begin and get things going? So it's looking at a good group of people, a good infrastructure, a good IT organization, a good services organization to kind of help start to mold that together with a good plan, right? Insurance policy. Should an accident occur, should Lucy and Alice, right, have a disjoint discussion and $100,000 be put in place. So it's not one thing; it's a lot of little things that all add up, right, to being able to good practices. And to be very frank, we ask our customers to evaluate those on a 12-month period, right? And to look at it because it's ever changing. Every year, annually, we sit down with our customers and go through advancements that we've had and where you can kind of get new benefits, right?
Yep. So definitely want to dive deeper into some of the questions that are here. Before we do that, just some quick sound bites from everybody who's presented here today. Again, really appreciate you folks being here. Mike, if you were going to wrap everything up in a sentence or two, what are your thoughts that come to mind?
Well, first of all, I want to say I don't have the permission of Alice and Lucy to use their names, so that I made up the names, but the situation is real. I think that not just with cybersecurity, but all sorts of risk management, it has to be the kind of thing that's built into the culture of the company. Training is a big part of that because it keeps installing the ideas that the CEO is trying to pass down to everybody in the organization. So I guess I would say that training and the human factors is the biggest issue for me and my clients.
Yep. Eric, some thoughts from your side of the table.
I'm going to dovetail right off of what Mike said. I think about people too. Don't be scared of your insurance provider. Don't be scared of your insurance broker. Don't be afraid to reach out to us if you need any help or you need any guidance. But I think the biggest thing we need to do, I'm a small business owner as well as an insurance broker. So I think we all have to use the tools, the people, the information around us to really make sure that, as a business, you're looking at your holistic approach to cybersecurity, to your risk management, and then to protecting yourself in case or reimbursing yourself in case an event was to happen.
Absolutely. Bob, Matt, some quick thoughts as we start to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think one aspect is to think about your business and try to decipher what's most important, right? Is it the customer list I've developed? Is it the IP that I've developed? Is it the the product we offer to our customers, and how you kind of lock that down, right? While we'd like to say SailPoint is the means to all answers, there are many different cybersecurity solutions out there that do a variety of different things. So my point is, get yourself educated on what some of those are. Ask lots of questions, attend seminars like this, and make some decisions on what's most important to lock down and secure your environment so you don't find yourself in a situation where you're running around with your hair on fire with exposure, right?
Yeah, when something actually happens, that's not the time where you want to be running the fire drill. You want to be running the fire drill before something happens, ideally.
That's correct. That's correct.
So to go back to our questions here, one came in, and this is linked to another question here. If a company is actually subjected to some type of cyber breach, such as ransomware, which is another question that's here, who should they reach out to actually begin the remediation process, assuming they have absolutely nothing in place? Where do you think we should start?
If you don't have anything in place, you probably don't have the insurance for it. So I'm going to kick that back over to Bob and Matt.
If you don't have anything in place, and we did get some phone calls with a large energy company that recently had been breached, and they had things in place, so you can start to extrapolate what transpired and how much exposure you have. Is the ransom, first of all, valid, right? We get these lots of requests from customers that they've got ransom, and in fact nothing was stolen. So the first part is to validate what's transpired. If you don't have anything in place, you're kind of in a spot where you're SOL, right? Not identifying what was stolen. If you can identify what was stolen, and then that's where your policies start to look through, and you start to look through the cyber companies to come in there and help you lock that door back down, right? So that you can either retrieve that information or stop it from going any further. But the most important thing is to have something in place, right? That's where it starts.
Absolutely.
I recommend, putting a plan in place as soon as you can, right? And we've heard stories of organizations getting shut out of their internal systems and having to start from zero, right? Completely reverting back and starting anew from everything they had. So it's not an easy answer, but it is best to have something in place for sure.
As a follow-up on the subject of ransomware, where your data is kind of held for ransom, you have the option to pay, you have the option to lose your data, but in some instances, you might actually be able to recover it. Is that correct?
In some instances, you can definitely recover it, without a doubt. And there are lots of new technologies. Everyone's probably familiar with Amazon and Amazon Web Services, where they're offering different things that keep that data in two active places, right? So you can go back and grab that data should something be broken in one spot. So yes, that's a great question. But there are times where both doors are being locked and your data is being restricted, to give to you to produce your next steps in your business. So you have to be a little bit proactive in identifying who has access to what, and make sure that controls are in place every day at every milestone, right?
Bob, here's another question sorry, Mike, go ahead.
So I was reading recently that for an organization that has no preparation at all, that sometimes negotiating, especially with ransomware, right away, if they're asking for $1 million, say, well, how much of our data can we have back for 50,000? And it's two-pronged. It gives you time. It gives the organization time to start to prepare. If they haven't released the data yet, or if they haven't shut down part of the system yet, and it's just a threat, it's a little bit, it reminded me of all the shows I've seen on TV about kidnapping, where they just want to keep the poor victim alive as long as possible, and then take it step by time. The whole purpose of this conversation, though, is to convince businesses that they don't want to be in that position. They don't want to be just caught flat-footed. It just has, if their competitor has had just a little bit more planning than they have, they could be dead in the water, and the competitor takes over the customers, which is
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason for being in business, is to keep your customers.
So along the lines of being caught flat-footed and verifying what the actual threat and problem is, here's a question that came in saying, how do you know that the cyber incident's actually a real problem? Like, as in, when do you know that it's time to call cyber 911, to alert the authorities, to alert the people advising you?
Yeah. Well, most systems today have what we call log information, right? It can see exactly what transpired. Somewhere along the line, there's traditionally historical trending or data about what data was taken or who accessed what at what given point in time. Even for users that are leaving a company, if their access hasn't been turned off, that historical data is there, right? Scott or Steve, gained access 5 months after they left the company. You can see who's been authorized or authenticated, right? Access to that data, right? So there's traditionally some log information out there. That's a good place to start first. That gives you good historical information of what just transpired.
Terrific. Here's an interesting one that I don't know if there's an exact answer to this, but I'm curious to see how all you guys would react to this. Where does an organization draw the line, especially these days, as far as what kind of information is stored in the cloud? How do they gauge their comfort level with that?
That's a good question. That's a good question, because that that line is getting a little bit grayer every day, right? There's just more and more companies, technology advancing, and a lot of the newest technologies coming around are built around cloud technology. So, and that's where your data is being, represented, stored, or pulled from. So, your question about sometimes cloud technology and what is being stored in. If you are doing business with a cloud provider, someone that offers cloud solutions, you can actually incorporate different things into your contract with them for breach of that data, should that data be stolen from that cloud provider. In theory, they're providing you a service where it's going to be secured and locked down. But if something is taking place, you can provide that in your contract for remediation.
Steve,
Awesome.
I just like to dovetail off of that as well. I get clients that ask me, well, my data is stored in the cloud. Why do I need cyber liability coverage? They're covered, it's in the cloud, it's covered that way. But you still need coverage as the business owner, because even though you're storing data in the cloud, you're still responsible for that information, on your side.
Absolutely. You can never completely outsource that type of responsibility, for sure. No. Again, really appreciate Mike, Eric, Bob, Matt, really appreciate you all being here today. Great topic of conversation, great content and thoughts out there for business owners, especially small, medium-sized business owners. Again, small, medium-sized business, definitely not immune to this. In fact, potentially more susceptible than anybody out there. But again, to put some protective measures in place, in some cases, can cost less than office supplies do for the office. So definitely not something to be glossed over. Again, for everybody, we're at the top of the hour. As a reminder, the recording today will be made available to everyone who's on the webinar. Keep an eye out for additional discussion as part of the Business Solutions Educational Series brought to you by SDA Wealth Strategies. We're going to do this on the fourth Wednesday of every month. Next month, we're going to be chatting a little bit further about business succession planning with some subject matter experts in the space. Again, big thank you to our special guests as well as the audience for attending. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
So long, everybody.